Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, Lynn Cullen wearing a perturbed expression on her face because these headphones in this studio are so bizarre. I suppose they're really good, but you have to be good at a certain kind of spatial intelligence to, like, get them... And I can't unscramble them. Never mind. I just feel like an idiot, that's all. Can I have my volume a little more up without screwing things up? Okay. Thank you. Hello, I'm Lynn Cullen. I'm going to be with you for the next hour or so and love to hear from you. You can call in right here to Point Park University Center for Media Innovation. Phone number 412-200-5686. I'll never remember it. Numbers don't. 200-5686 or Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. I am looking at the greatest picture. I don't know how I didn't see this. So the president was in Nashville yesterday trying to make himself feel better with a sort of a retrospective, pretending he was running again rally. They were even the crowd was even saying. But there was one guy standing outside. Turns out his name is James Walker. He's 31 years old. He's from Nashville. He was holding up a big sign that said this: "I've made a huge mistake." So there's one Trump voter willing to own it, stand out there where other people who haven't acknowledged yet that they made the huge mistake. But wow. That's a brave guy, and also a guy capable of acknowledging that he screwed up. I adore this guy already. 31-year-old James Walker. I forgive you. So, the front page of the New York Times today is if you wanted to say the Trump administration is failing miserably and clearly these people are incapable of governing, it's all here on the front page. Every story is another indication. We've got, oh my God, you got the judges, two of the three. We haven't heard from the third. Two federal judges staying or blocking temporarily the second attempt by the Trump administration to have a Muslim travel ban. And what's wonderful as the judges explained their ruling, we call them rulings, do we? As the judges explained, they both referred to past statements that were made by the president and by people who were surrogates of the president or in the administration as clear indication of what the intent of the ban was. So here you have, and there's something wonderful about this. Here you have Trump, who spews verbiage, says whatever he wants if it serves his purposes for that specific sentence. Damn the consequences down the road. You don't look down the road ever. And here, his own words, his own campaign promises coming back to bite him. So, yeah, all these things have consequences. The lies, the boasts. By the time you get to a court of law, sober-minded judges look at the record of statements made. And they say, well, it's pretty clear here what the intent of the administration was. even as the attorneys for the Department of Justice are arguing, well, that was not the intent. The intent was, and the judge has, I have here like 100 statements made by the president while he was running and even after he was inaugurated that clearly show this was the intent. Wow. Okay, so there's that. And then there's his budget. First of all, let's remember that the budget is the job of the Congress, of the legislative branch. The executive branch and the president can put forward what they want. This is the budget we would like. And given that it's a Republican president and a Republican Congress, you can assume that they'd be on the same page. Trump's budget is about as ugly, nasty, evil, stab his very own people in the back document. I cannot believe this. I hope the people who voted for Trump are looking at what he's proposing, because it's his base that this screws the most. It's beyond belief. I mean, if you happen to be a defense contractor and you voted for him, well, you're sitting pretty, but that'd be about it. I'm thinking of all the states, the Great Lakes states that made the difference. Stop and think. Wisconsin, bordering on Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. Michigan, bordering on Lake Michigan and Lake Huron? Erie? Huron. Erie. I don't know. My geography ain't great. Pennsylvania. Erie. Ohio. Erie? That's Lake Erie up there, right? Yeah. Where the hell's Huron? Oh, it's east of Erie. So, all those people who live in the Great Lakes Basin, you know, one of the things he's going to absolutely get rid of totally? It's this very important effort that's been going on now for years that is, I mean, has total support of the residents of those states to safeguard the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes have a lot of very specific environmental pressures and problems and concerns, and his budget would just throw all of that out. Let me tell you, that ain't going to go over well. It ain't going to go over well even with like the conservative governor of Wisconsin, right? It ain't going to go over well with anybody whose state borders those lakes. Here's another agency he's going to cut. The Appalachian Regional Commission. This was funded and founded during the effort to get a handle on the poverty of that region of Appalachia. And it is an agency that promotes economic development, infrastructure in Appalachia, the poorest part of America, which voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. He's going to pull the rug out from under them. All of those things that would benefit the very people who voted for him. It's not surprising to hear that he would totally get rid of all those things that the coastal elites like public broadcasting and the arts, funding for the arts and the humanities, whatever those are. Totally gone. Federal support for long-distance Amtrak train service. Gone. Totally eliminated. Helping to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. Eliminated. Do you know if Melania would just move from New York into Washington, D.C., into the White House, which I know is a step down, but if she would, the amount of money saved would allow probably 2 or 3 of these programs, let's hope it's the ones that help poor people, to survive. Funding for Superfund cleanup of hazardous waste sites. Rural communities. Okay, rural communities. Overwhelming vote for Trump. Overwhelmingly vote for Trump. Rural communities will lose grants and loans to build water facilities. And any airport in a slightly, rural kind of, serving any rural area, they're gone. And let's stick it to the kids while we're sticking it to the farmers. After school, summer programs, home energy aid, helping poor people stay warm in the winter, job training programs, legal services for the poor. They're all gone. This is Republicans' governance. Meals on Wheels. Did I mention that? Meals on Wheels. Republicans go after always the vulnerable, the hungry, the elderly, the poor, the marginalized, children. How do you craft a document like this and sleep? We keep asking ourselves these questions. How do you sleep at night? How do they? Henri? Okay. For some reason, that's from yesterday. So we'll pull all our funding from any climate change. The EPA is decimated. Economic and development assistance to other countries, say goodbye. The NIH, National Institutes of Health, the countries, this is our medical research, it's huge cuts. Housing assistance, peacekeeping efforts, anything you would think would be untouchable. The only thing that doesn't get cut are things that have guns and weapons of mass destruction. But right here it says, the losers in this budget are some of the very constituencies that have been most supportive of Donald Trump. Well, what can we say? Tried to tell you. Tried to warn you. Uh-oh. But, excuse me. So there it is. I'm sorry, I will remain absolutely incapable of comprehending how people would vote for these cruel SOBs. I can't. I was telling my son the other day that it's weird now that I'm at an advanced age. I still have the same problem that I had when I was a kid. When I first started, looking outside myself and seeing suffering and I never could understand. Why wouldn't you help? Why aren't we doing something? And 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 I still have the same uncomprehending astonishment after, being on this earth for 6, 7 decades. And I'm no more able to respond to that question that I had as a child. It might just be, I guess some people are just more matter of fact. This is the way the world is. It's cruel. I know that's true. All you have to do is watch a nature thing. It's cruel. It's cruel out there. And I guess, we ain't exempt. But the thing is we've got these so-called brains. We got an ability to alter our environment. And that we would choose to harm our environment and harm people who are struggling alongside us. It's just, or not help. I don't understand it. I guess I never will. Maybe I don't want to. It's like going to a very dark place. That there are so many people, that I'm sharing this globe, this city, with people who don't give a shit about anybody. So anyway, I mentioned the EPA is just being decimated by Trump's budget. And there's a story out of Australia today that is really upsetting. It's about one of the wonders of the natural world. It is about, actually, I think it is the world's largest living structure, the Great Barrier Reef, stretching for, hundreds and hundreds of miles. I hope I can see it sometime. It says that when you see it, people often are moved to tears. It can be seen by astronauts as they circle the Earth. That's how huge this thing is, the Great Barrier Reef. And they're finding out that it is dying. Huge parts of it are already gone. I'll interrupt this obituary with a call. That's Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Lynn. I've been able to listen to you for the last week, and I'll tell you what, your stream coming over my phone through my Bose speaker is fantastic, so now I'll be able to take it to work with me.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
When I get back to work. Don't want to change your conversation
Go
about
ahead.
the Great Barrier Reef, but there's been some things I've been thinking about, and I've been listening to you all week. You mentioned Charles Dickens, and which kind of ties in with the cuts in the humanities. Well, it's coincidentally, I've been reading some Dickens lately because I've been sick, and also The Grapes of Wrath. If you keep putting out these books and art, people might start to put two and two together and start to realize what's going on there. Because reading The Grapes of Wrath, all these people out in California, as the migrants started coming in there, go home, we don't want you. It's amazing. I am a child of the 60s. Okay, I was born in 1960. And I kind of after the Obama years, after going through Reagan and Bush and 8 years of Obama, I thought, man, we're finally getting somewhere. And I kind of lulled myself into this sense of well-being. And then, boom, I just got smacked right over the head with this Trump guy.
Yep.
And it's just It's killing me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I think that it goes back to 1934. And this cabal, it's taken, 70, 80 years to do? But these people who just despised Franklin Roosevelt, they have been patient, and they have put their plans in action. And this is basically the culmination of it. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I suspect that you could certainly make a strong case that, yeah, it is those same people who thought that what he was doing was socialism, that the New Deal was appalling. And they've had little, attempts to come back. Ronald Reagan made an effort, right? Republicans have been fighting.
Reagan was nothing compared to
Nothing.
Trump.
Nothing. So, no, I think you're right. It's all the people who don't think, and they're with us forever, who do not believe that government should do anything, should even exist, I guess, except to keep them safe. And they define that. Apparently, keep them safe now means you don't let brown people into your country.
Yeah.
So that's what
government
government
on the street, because that'll make you safe. I don't know if you've ever done any research. I haven't. Have you heard anything? Is there like an empathy gene?
I think I've seen
things. Just might be missing.
Yes, I think there is something that I have read. That there are. I mean, this is something that, I think you either have it or you don't. We're all born with wiring. And I do think that there are, I'm doomed to be empathetic, which is a burden. It would be easier to live a life, right, without empathy?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it?
I've been brought up to, kind of think, and I wasn't really necessarily brought up in a strong Christian family. I've been kind of brought up with, Western Christian, ideals. But, there but for the grace of God go I.
Exactly.
This heroin epidemic, and people want to demonize these poor people. Hey, you know what? When I was a stupid kid in high school, that could have happened to me. Fortunately, I wasn't in a position where it was so accessible. I did a lot of partying, let me tell you, when I was a young man, and it's very possible that could have happened to me. But for the grace of God. But you got to demonize them,
So
they made their bed. They got to lay on it, and we're gonna punish them for it. It's such a shame.
It is. So I mean, you're right. I do think there's something innate in some people where they are more empathetic, and some people don't have that ability. But that doesn't mean that through environment, through nurture, that they couldn't have been taught, even if they didn't feel it, that there but for the grace of God go I is how you should always look at someone who is less fortunate, and then not keep walking, but think, what can I do? That could be taught, So people who show no empathy might not have the chemistry of it in their brains, but they also might not ever have been taught. The people who have none, raise children, they don't pass on the values that I would say are the most important values. They pass on their lousy values, which is get rich, get as much as you can, sharp elbows, don't worry about anybody else. Do you think parents actually say things like that? Raising children? They model it.
I think that some people probably do. Not many. It's not black and white. That's the thing. There's so much gray area in between, even talking about who are the Trump voters. The initial reaction was, they're a bunch of racists. Well, you know what? There's a certain element of racism.
Right.
But they weren't all racist. You know? Well, I just wanted to call and say hello and get that 1934 thing, because that's what I really think that...
Well,
There's just... irony is all over the place, where, like you say, down the rabbit hole and everything. They criticize scientists and pointy-head academics, but that they use that psychology, which is academic, to reel these people in. People of good faith, Christians or whatever, that might vote for Trump thinking that they're doing the right thing. They have learned how to psychologically manipulate these people. It's such a shame.
Truly. Feel
I will
better.
let you get on to other callers and
Thank
other subjects, but I will be listening.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
thanks
you.
again. Thanks for being a port in the storm.
Thank you. Glad
Okay.
glad to be a port. Okay. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Linda writes, Democrats need to talk about the hundreds of thousands of jobs that are going to be affected by these kinds of budget. Huge. A lot of government jobs, which is what they do want to get rid of. Those cuts run deep and would trickle down and mean state job losses in addition to the loss of programs and services at every level that will have to be picked up by states that also now are governed by Republicans in large part, who don't believe in coming to the aid of anybody but their rich friends. God help you if you're poor. God help you if you're in need. God help you. Because the Republicans ain't going to. I want to. So the Great Barrier Reef is dying, and coral is like a canary in the coal mine. Coral can handle somewhat a slight warming of seawater, but it can't handle how warm it is now. And it's just dying off. Coral, like the canary, is a indicator of the health of the sea. And the fact that the Great Barrier Reef is truly in peril, and parts of it already disappearing, just shows what climate change is doing. And now we've got people in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency who do not even believe that it's happening. I mean, all right. Change the subject. So, I remember when I first heard about this legislation, I think it was in Florida, yeah, that was called Stand Your Ground. How many years ago was that now? Maybe 6, 7, I don't know. And I was appalled by it. The legislation essentially said, if you feel endangered, you can kill the person who's making you feel that way. That's what the law said. I mean, it used to be the law said if you are in danger, what you're supposed to do is retreat. Now it says you're standing there, rather than retreat, you just shoot. And at the time, I said, and I really got a lot of emails saying, you've really gone a little far with that. I said, stand your ground. This law should be called Shoot Black Men for Free law. And that's exactly what happened, right? That's exactly what happened. Not that it wasn't happening before, but now it's happening, and you totally, certainly get away with it. Well, I need to tell you that the Florida State Legislature is about to pass, one branch already has, the governor is eager to sign a new version of the Stand Your Ground bill. And believe it or not, they're making it even more of a shoot black men for free, get out of jail free, don't even have to go to court. You just have to say, I was scared. what they're going to do with this law now is, it used to be that if you killed someone and your defense was, I was in fear of my life, so I knew I had the right, but then you had to prove why you were in fear of your life. The new version of this despicable legislation moves that burden of proving away from the person who shot and instead to the court that is prosecuting that person. So prosecutors are now going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest standard our law affords, that deadly force was not justified. So here's the thing. I have a report here. Strange that this came out the same day I saw that. This is a study, Journal of Social Psychology, and here's what they found out. This is from the Los Angeles Times, and this is not going to startle you. In very controlled studies, people constantly perceive black men as physically larger than they are, more muscular than they are, and more capable of harming the person looking at them than they are. This is a constant. So, take that human psychology that we've all been taught, that black men, ingrained in like God knows what, 90% of the population. The first inclination, a black man's walking towards you. Fear? Huh? Boy, he's big. You know what's so weird, as somebody pointed out, here, we are a culture that has dehumanized black men, and yet at the same time, we've superhumanized them. So we've said, you're beneath us, and at the same time we said, you're bigger and stronger and have larger penises, right, guys? How do you do both of those at the same time? You're beneath us. We're scared to death of you. Everyone suspected this was true, but now through, rigorous study, it is shown that overwhelmingly people say that the use of force against a black man is more appropriate than against a white man. So you put people in the exact same situation. The only difference is the color of the guy's skin, and you're okay to shoot the one and not the other. So when I said the first stand your ground law was a shoot black men for free law, I've been proven right on that. And now Florida is about to make it even easier. One Florida state senator, Bobby Powell, said this. So what would make people fearful for their lives? Would it be me walking down the street? What does this mean? Does it mean that I can no longer walk down a street? Does it mean I no longer have reason to be alive. Republicans, ladies and gentlemen, Republicans, vile. Josie writes, my feeling is the increase to the defense budget is gearing up for something. Well, yeah, I can see why you'd think that, Josie. I mean, we know it's gearing up to put a transfer of huge, bigly amounts of taxpayer dollars into the pockets of defense contractors. It's like that, make Halliburton richer. But yeah, you can't have as many generals surrounding you as Trump has and probably not get us into a war. Also, the ineptitude of this administration is so beyond even anyone's wildest imaginations that it does resort, this administration, to distraction, right? We were talking about that yesterday, throwing something out there, look at that, while, we try to clean up this mess we made. The biggest distraction that an administration can engage in is, of course, war. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, it's Joe. Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
Okay.
Hey, Lynn, you were talking about shooting black men and all that. I always believed that if you would cut down the police force, change the laws with these drugs, stop the war on drugs, the crime would come down more. When you have less police, you have less crime. Now, it's crazy to say, but if they're out there, they're going to arrest them. For what? Anything. Because some of the communities, I think all of them, they get money for for drug crimes. More money into their community and police station and all that. That's proven.
Yeah.
And another thing, I always believe if you have a professional army, you're going to use it. That's why I think you should have they'll go back to the draft.
Well, yeah.
Then we wouldn't have...
Dream on.
No, really.
No, I know you're right.
If you didn't have...
You're right.
The Iraq War wouldn't have gone on.
No, if people had a true stake in it, no. And that's why they got rid of the draft after Vietnam, because they saw, gee, it's really hard to do a war when people say, you mean I'm supposed to go die in that jungle for what again?
Yeah.
Yeah, but him, if he wants to go die in that jungle, go ahead. It's okay.
Right. That's why they don't care too much.
And when people have a personal stake, you don't go to war easily.
Not really, I want the draft, but I'm just saying.
I know.
Using it as an example.
It'd be better.
You know what I'm saying?
It'd be better.
And another thing, when they did do that war over there, they should have told Bush, okay, you pay for it. Raise the taxes, you pay for it. I bet they wouldn't have gone over. Because they wouldn't want to raise taxes. But nobody said anything on that. But this thing with the police, we don't need more police. All we need to do is change these drug laws that are crazy. In this Sessions, he wants to make it worse. He wants to...
he talks about marijuana like it's heroin. Yeah.
Right. It's no worse. It's not as bad as drinking. I don't use either one, but I don't see the big deal on it.
Right. Agreed.
I really don't anymore. I just... But...
oh, well.
Like I said, Trump wants to bring, put more policemen out there. We don't need that. Let's just change the laws.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I always thought that way. It's just the more people out on the beat, the more arrests they're going to do. It just, not to say we don't need police and they don't do their job. It's just.
I hear you.
Okay, then.
They're doing the wrong things. They're having to enforce idiotic laws, right? Okay. Hey, Joe, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Deb says, if this madman and his Republican supporters get their way, peaceful protest will be outlawed. Well, I think I mentioned the other day how there are already bills in state legislatures, Republican-controlled state legislatures, that would definitely try to, in as much as they can, criminalize protest. And of course, again, the courts will spurn these. I mean, we'll say, have you read the First Amendment? We have the right to protest. Americans have the right to protest in public spaces. There is no doubt about it. Deb says they're trashing the Constitution. And their so-called patriots in the government and out are allowing this to happen because they don't understand what makes this country great. The very things that make this country great, they think endanger it. Maybe that's a big difference between them and us. We look at the panoply of humanity that makes up America, and we say, wow, ain't that something? That makes us so much better, so much stronger, so much more interesting, so much smarter, so much more innovative. Anybody knows that when you keep breeding the same little group, people get stupider and stupider and stupider. America's never done that. We bring in all kinds of people. And so when we procreate, we make mutts. We don't make hemophiliacs. I'm sorry if you're a hemophiliac. I didn't mean that. Just talking about the royal thing there. The bigger the pool, the better the outcome. So they think difference is dangerous when conformity is dangerous. They don't acknowledge that chaos is sort of the way the world is. It's chaotic. You can't control things that much. You got to get comfortable with chaos and change. Go with the flow, relax, learn how to keep your balance. Yada. They wanna. I'm sorry, I shouldn't bang the table because I think then I bounce the camera. Again, I think we come back to almost sort of brain chemistry, maybe. Two kinds of people. People are born fearful. Some people are born more sort of timid and fearful and feel comfortable in controlled environments. Some people, like me, are the exact opposite. Rebel against any effort to rein me in. I don't want to. I don't like rules. I don't like people telling me that I have to think this or do that. So they're totally two different kinds of people. And the scared ones are in charge right now. The control freaks are in charge right now. Deb writes, the people like you, me, and others have empathy is the reason we are so upset and so depressed. And the others have no problem. Well, as I said, I mean, it'd be easier to live without empathy. I guess you'd feel pretty good all the time, assuming you felt good, because that's all that mattered. Just like sometimes I've thought that phrase, ignorance is bliss, is right. That if you're an idiot, if you don't know the Great Barrier Reef is on the wane, if you don't know that poor people are going to lose a lot of support, lose heat in the winter and food for their families and stuff like this under all of these. If you don't know that, then, you can be whistling around and happy. But life is short, and I don't want to live it in a state of ignorance. So, or with a hard heart. That'd be wasting my life, I think. So I know they have an easier road in some ways, but a sadder life. Deb writes, I'm so bad. When I was at Petland yesterday, I wanted to take every dog home with me. Well, that's why I won't go into one of those places. How can you even stand to look? I always say, if I had millions and billions of dollars, I wouldn't have that money for long. If I have more than you, I would give you some. I know, Deb. Well, I understand. Ben wants to point out that Florida is also an open carry state, coupled with the stand your ground state, coupled with the, if I'm feeling a little timid today and that black man keeps walking on the sidewalk toward me, well, I'm just going to have to shoot him here with this handy gun on my hip. It's just a formula for, as Ben says, openly killing people. And the people who are going to die are mostly black men. Young black men. Oh, let's go to another great state, Texas. Did you see there that lawmakers have advanced a bill that would allow doctors to lie to a pregnant woman? In other words, doing a sonogram, if a doctor sees a terribly abnormal fetus, the doctor would be able to say to the woman, oh, and it looks like you've got a wonderful, healthy, bouncing baby girl. It would allow doctors to lie to a pregnant woman about the health of her fetus. And now, and I have to note that really good outcome in the Netherlands vote yesterday. There, Donald Trump, this repulsive Geert Wilders, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It means asshole in Dutch. He looks like a cross between Liberace and sort of like Liberace and John Belushi, I think. I can't quite figure out, but he is really, that is one. Anyway, yeah, he didn't do too well. Ha ha. And some people are opining, who knows if it's true, that some of the people who sort of liked him before and noting the similarities between him and Donald Trump and seeing what Donald Trump has wrought in the once great United States of America, that he may have lost some of his support because people were thinking he's just going to be like Donald Trump. We can't have that. So this is good. That was a victory for our side. France is up next in terms of elections, and that's a much scarier situation with the despicable Marine Le Pen cleaned up from her daddy, still a racist, still a xenophobe, still a fascist, but much more sophisticated than her father was. So we'll see. So I admit, I bought a People magazine the other day. It's rare. It's rare. I knew I was going to be stuck by myself for a long time in a waiting room kind of situation, and I knew I'd weary of looking at my dang phone, and so I thought, get a People magazine. So I did. And the minute I open it, I always think, why the hell did you do this? God, wasted money. Anyway, but there was one article that blew me away. I didn't know about this. And maybe you guys already do. Did you know that the widow of Beau Biden, Joe Biden's son, who died of brain cancer now, about a year, maybe even almost 2 ago? And the reason that we hear that Biden did not feel up to running for president because of his grief, the widow of Beau Biden is now openly with the only surviving Biden son, Hunter. So Biden had 2 sons, right? He had started with 3 children. The daughter and his first wife killed in a horrible car accident. The 2 little boys, Hunter and Beau, very, very seriously hurt. But they survived and both married, both have children. Beau dies. And now Hunter and Beau's widow are together. Now, in the Bible, wasn't there this thing when 2 brothers, if one of them loses the brother would take on the widow, right? So I think. Who knows? But this is like what I should add, that Hunter Biden's marriage was apparently on the rocks. I mean, he and his wife were estranged. They are in the midst of a divorce. But that is really sort of, wow. Your brother and sister-in-law, and then you're going to be husband and wife. I suppose that happens more often than we suspect. But anyway, it's ugly there, apparently, because the one guy's wife who's suing is dragging her husband's name through the mud. And the vice president and his wife, Jill, are saying the new couple, their surviving son and the widow of Beau, their other, have their full and complete support. That's why people buy People magazine. I'm sorry. It's stories like that. Who knew? Oh. Okay, guys. I've got something and I want to pose it to you, and I'm afraid I'm doing this too late. I should also point out on the we need to have more time to deal with that. And I have not pointed out today about the increasingly angry response from congressional Republicans to the stonewalling from the Department of Justice and the bullshit from the White House regarding the so-called tapping of Trump's phones by Obama. A total lie. Everybody knows it. A scurrilous, slanderous canard. But it has to be investigated. The President of the United States said it. So you gotta, I'm sorry. Here's what Trump doesn't get yet. That when you're an idiot reality show star, you can say whatever you goddamn well please, because that's how the genre works. You be outrageous, you double down, you do this, you do that, people forget about it, it doesn't matter. And he's doing the same thing, only this time he's the President of the United States of America. And every syllable out of his pursed, ugly little lips matters. He can't figure that out. He doesn't get that he's not on a reality show. And you can't accuse the former president of the United States of committing a felony when you have absolutely no proof. And now we know how he heard, that tweet happened. Breitbart ran an absurd story that it sort of got when the guy from Breitbart who wrote it was washing his dishes late at night. This is what his story is. And he was listening to the noxious right-wing radio show host Mark Levin. And Levin was doing what he does, which spinning an entirely false story, conspiracy theory about, Obama getting into Trump's phones and computers and this and that. And the guy washing his dishes goes to work the next day at Breitbart and writes up a story and adds a few lies of his own, and out it goes as news. A day or two later, I don't know exactly the timeline, we come to Fox News, and one of its best and brightest, what's his name? Brent, do you know? I can see him in my, anyway, he, on Fox News, starts talking about it, and the president is listening. And the president hears every other word, and that's when his tweet comes out. I just learned, he says, that Obama tapped my phones. First of all, the guy in Fox did not say that. But the word Obama came out and the word tap came out. And if you stop and think of, here are people. Levin makes it up. This idiot, I think his name is Pollock, washing his dishes, who works for Breitbart, picks up some of what Levin is saying. He does a further sort of tossing it up in the air and rearranging the words. And then you have, is it Brett Baer? I don't know. He then takes it from there. And this is considered news. This is journalism? Whoa! And then the president does the next thing. It's like that thing telephone where, you whisper something to somebody and by the time it comes back around, it bears no resemblance to what the first person said. Unbelievable. So Republicans are getting really fed up. Even this Nunes, the Republican puppet who heads the House Intelligence Committee, has been forced to say that there is absolutely no evidence that what Trump said is true. Quote, I don't think there was an actual tap of Trump Tower. That's wrong. Even Jeff Sessions, I don't like calling him Jeff. It makes him sound like a regular guy. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, the Attorney General of these United States, not a nightmare, it's the reality, has said that I didn't give the president any information to that effect. So Trump's out there all on his own on this, and yet investigations are happening. And he's doubled down. Appearing, yes, on Fox News, yet again, I believe yesterday, with the horrific Tucker Carlson. When asked about it, the president said, I will be vindicated. He says wiretap covers a lot of different things. What? What does that mean? So a wiretap can be what? A fruit salad? What is he talking about? Like, words don't mean a damn thing. And then Trump actually said, I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks. Guys, He's just making it up as he goes along. It's the same kind of thing he said when he was starting his birtherism thing. And I've got a crack team of investigators and private eyes over there in Hawaii, and they are finding some very interesting things, and we will be giving you a report, who knows, in the near future. Eh? Bullshit, 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 bullshit. But then, such remarks did not trigger federal investigations involving the FBI, the intelligence committees of the House and the Senate. Wow. I love the fact that Republicans can't possibly be sleeping as well as they usually do. And I think that does it for us here. Just want to get in any thoughts you have. Okay, I think I'm okay. And thank you very much. And I'm about to venture out onto the streets of Pittsburgh, where I have a window here where I can see there are a lot of... Oh, my God! There's 2 of them now! Black men walking by... Ah! Do you have a gun? Does somebody have a gun? There's black men out there. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.